For the past 2 days or so, I have been playing the Outer Worlds port on Nintendo Switch. Now, obviously, there are a lot of different opinions on this game, and for people who take the word of Digital Foundry as gospel, the Outer Worlds on Switch is a no-go. It is not good. I have seen other publications writing that it is so ugly they would hesitate recommending it to people even if it was their only way to play the Outer Worlds. So obviously there's a lot of hate out there for it. Before I picked it up, I asked Jordan, who did our hands-on with it for Destructoid, what it was like before his preview went up, and he told me the game looked like one of those videos where somebody plays a PC game at the lowest graphical setting, and that is a really apt description of what we're working with here. When I first started it up and making my way toward the Unreliable, my initial thought was I was wondering how they could possibly release a game in this condition, because it really did look bad. Genuinely bad. The first area feels like you're playing through an alpha of the game. And then when you combine that with the gunplay that isn't all that exciting, I really started to regret the dropping $60 on this game. And apropos of anything else I'm going to say in this little bit, the Outer Worlds on Switch is not worth the $60 they're charging. Right now, it is simply not worth it. There are much better games you can get for that money right now. Or less, because Clubhouse Games is also just released. So the beginning is very ugly. But if I'm being 100% honest right now, the look of the game bothers me less and less the further I go into it. When I was going through that first area and I started to explore more of it, I started to appreciate the psychedelic nature of the visuals, because there are some crazy color combinations here, like hot pinks and neon greens that are just scattered all around the veil, and it makes journeying through these parts kind of interesting. They're still just bad, Nintendo 64 level textures all over the place. There's some muddy ground. But by the time I got to Roseway, which is the second port on the first planet, I was kind of totally on board with the Technicolor Dreamcoat they assembled here. I especially like how all the water looks like that liquid metal you saw in a lot of music videos from the late 90s and early 2000s that people would just melt into and then reappear from. Even though it does have something about the look of it that I can get behind, this is probably the worst representation of what the Unreal Engine can do on Switch, because there are way better examples of what you can do with that on this hardware. Dragon Quest XI, Wolfenstein 2, Hellblade, Sesuna's Sacrifice, those are like great looking games that use the engine well, and this is not one of them. This is more like when Capcom tried to port the original Resident Evil to the Game Boy Color. That's kind of what we're looking at here.
So, what do we know? Like, is it confirmed why it is this state? Is it a hardware optimization problem, or is it a early release before it could be fine-tuned issue? Or
that is a good question. I'm not entirely sure what the reason is, other than maybe they just thought it was acceptable. I will say the second area of the game, or I guess third area, if Roseway would be the third area that you go to, is a lot more attractive than the first one. The first one is really kind of barren overall, but the second one has a lot more foliage and a lot more colors. And it's still, bad textures, but I kind of just think that they got it to a playable state. And once they did that, it was no point. They saw no reason in waiting any longer than to get it out. Okay. Obviously, the work from home didn't help, and I don't think it probably should have released this soon after the original release, because Dragon Quest XI on the Switch took I think a year and a half after the original PlayStation 4 version launched for it to come out, and this most definitely could have used more time in the oven, especially because when you consider that they haven't put out a trailer for this. It's all just been like still screenshots, because there's no way you're going to show a trailer of this game that makes it look enticing. You can do that with screenshots, because there are some parts of this game, indoor parts mostly, that look good, that look fine, that look like they look like other ports from PS4 and Xbox One down to the Switch. But a lot of this game, as soon as you step outdoors, it most evidently does not look like that. But there was the day one patch that I know wasn't available for when Jordan did his write-up, and I think when Digital Foundry did theirs, that did... It looks like it may have fixed some of the issues. There is still pop-in, but the frame rate is a lot more stable than it was before. Load screens still take a while, and it really bothers me when I die and the last automatic save was before I moved into a new area. So I have to sit through a long load screen just to go into another long load screen to get back to where I was. That's really fucking annoying. But the only thing that really bothers me is that Outer Worlds has these big open spaces, and if you are going through it too fast, the game will stop and throw up one of those little spinning circle loading icons as it loads some of the textures that you're going to come to.
Yeah, it does the Oblivion thing.
Yeah. That was jarring when that first time that happened, and now it's kind of happening more and more, so it's like the game is pushing me away from running through it. But other than that, I came into the Outer Worlds not really being a fan of Western RPGs. Like, I've spent a whopping 5 minutes with Skyrim, and I've never played a Fallout game. I'm still not a big fan of the genre, but I'm kind of enjoying it the more I get into it, especially now that I've reached Roseway and the mission variety is a little more interesting here. I just wish my teammates would stop dying so quickly because they fucking suck. They are made of glass, and I hate them.